Hello everyone and welcome to my Ascension Messages. My name is Bobby and I will be your guide for this moment. I am going to channel some messages through and we are going to discuss, before we begin, that's the title, before we begin, our communities and where we're actually going in this next phase. Hey Sky, good to see you. Yes, so this is going to be quite interesting, I think. Yeah, they wanted to bring through some preparation and so forth. Now, before I do start, I am actually creating a beautiful video of the true history of humanity. It's information that I was given over the span of 10 years by 4 different beings that visited me, and their stories. So I've decided to put this information all together, how I got the information, the whole thing. It's going to take quite a bit of time. I'd probably be maybe anywhere from an hour and a half to a 2-hour video in the end. So it's going to take me about a month to put that together. I'm going to put that video on my other site, not on Bobby the Messenger, but on Codes to a New Reality. So go subscribe to that site, because every time I put something different up where I don't go live up on this site, Bobby the Messenger, the algorithms drop. So I'm going to just keep this to the lives and put my other videos on the other channel, which is called Codes to a New Reality. Plus, it goes really well with that. Codes to a New Reality. I mean, we have to find out the true history. And that history was given to me after I said, look, I don't know what the true history is. I just have a feeling that the schools were not telling the whole truth. And so then I left it open, said if the schools are right, the schools are right. If it's a boring story, it's a boring story. If it's a crazy story, it's a crazy story. It just so happened to be a crazy story. So this crazy story that happened, and I forgot about asking about that until 10 years later. I realized I had been visited by these 4 different species, and they were giving me all this information about the history of humanity. So I pieced it all together, and then now that I have the capability to channel even more information through, I'm channeling more information through as I go along, and I'm putting that all together for you guys. And you can take what you like. You don't have to agree. It might fit into what you already have a feeling about, or it might not. It doesn't matter. It's just a story that I feel personally I need to get out, and it's enough with it being in my head. Okay, so let's get into some channeled advice though about where we're actually going next. Hey Wade, good to see you in the chat bar, and all is one. Nice to see you guys. So I did channel one little short message through. Just let me tune in though a little bit more, because there is some really interesting new vibrations that are hitting us at the moment. None of this, everything that we are moving into is really an invertedness or a complete different take on what we have gone through. And so to do that, whole new choices are going to have to be made here, and new understandings, new perspectives. But we have to get that mind within ourselves first balanced, to be able to clear the clutter of the fear, the victimization, the guilt, all of that sort of stuff. We have to clear that first before we even get close to opening a space for new it's not actually new information they're telling me. It's dormant information that your soul already has held, and you have been butting heads with that information by trying to fit into a program of guilt, fear, and victimization. And it's repressed or made dormant, this information here, which is the information we need to be able to create or form these new communities, living together again, but coming from a space within oneself of absolute faith and trust in who you allow to bring into your reality. When you start making new choices because you're now affirming to yourself your own self-support, you start to bring in or make new choices of those that you allow in. It's not depicted on who's famous, who has enough money, who has the land. It's not that. It's more of a resonance of, we are dreaming the same dream. We are imagining the same imagination into life. And the imagination in the dream is then being asked to be grounded. How are we? These are the questions we will say. How are we going to ground these new imaginations and these new dreamings into reality? How is this going? What's the practical solution for this? And then we then maybe let in another person that has more of a practical solution on how to work with the land or work with whatever we want to create. So there's also, they keep bringing up in my channeling, that bringing up a very visual picture of huge crystals surrounding the outside of, and I'm not saying that this is going to be for all new communities that are created, but this is the one that they're showing me, and I think this is a very Pleiadian kind of a style. So I can only really come from my style. There's going to be other people out there that are creating and forming new communities that go from their style. So just be aware of that, and it's whatever feels right for you. But in my style, what I'm getting from my team is these huge crystals that are kind of put on the outskirts around surrounding this community. They don't have to be in sight. They can be maybe later on, but to begin with, there's something to do with the planting of crystals that happened many decades ago. I know I planted a circle on Mount Nebo in Brisbane. And there's others I know that was planting crystals around the same time. Something to do with the grid alignment, something to do with that being a protection or a vibration of holding our visualizations to be able to be grounded. Holding the energy, we're sending it through to these holding crystals. It's really interesting. So there's a whole heap more that's going to come to play. See, we can't expect, and I'm bringing this sort of thing up because we can't expect to shift our reality completely and yet not make different choices and yet not expand into different decisions and thinking up different ways of communicating. And these communications that happen is from our mind working as been activated as a balanced mind now, where the logic is actually open to the imagination, to the soul's lineage, to the soul's understandings of what has happened in previous lives, maybe back in Atlantis, Lemuria times, be brought forward again for the now. And so that there has to be a kind of just a dropping within one's beliefs enough for something else to surface, and then asking self. They're saying this will all happen together, though. It's kind of like an emergence. When you clear the mind, you come into balance. The balance leaves the space within your mind. The space within your mind brings up creativity. The creativity that you work with is now going to give you solutions and understandings of communication with things that you wouldn't normally have communicated with, i.e. crystals, fauna, animals, all sorts of other things. Even the way in the Mother Earth and how we place our buildings, everything is conducive to energy. And then they're showing me this energy ramping up within humanity, and it's literally lifting us into a light, kind of a light body or a light frequency within ourselves, where the cells in ourselves are now lit with more love and more information, more wisdom. And then we're now guided by that information rather than guided by the regurgitated information of looking outside oneself for information, which has only been held by one sort of species or one being that's been overshadowing humanity's consciousness for a very long time. So that overshadowing that was happening was holding humanity in a captive kind of a way, in a regurgitating way, because the logical mind that was put in charge or allowed to be in charge through our schooling systems and our way of gaining access to information only outside of us, not from within our wisdom, our lighting up of our souls, connection to other information through that light. That repressiveness that we had holding us hostage could only be accessed by the logical mind. The logical mind's programming was only to grab from the past and project into the future. So we had this cycle that just kept going over and over and over. Why do I keep getting in the same patterns, the same people, the same problems, the same relationships, the same work stuff, the same everything? And it's boring, boring, boring. So this is what woke up humanity, the boringness of it all, when we had this access that was always accessible to our imagination, but repressed. And so it became a stalemate. I know within myself, things are becoming boring. I watch a program for 5 minutes and I'm like, I'm bored. Like humor is the only thing that I kind of watch at the moment, because it's at least making me light and laugh and thinking, it's just more fun. But there's been a lot that's kind of when we start to really clear ourselves, we'll find the food that we're eating really does taste bland, because all of the nutrients has been taken out of it and replaced with stuff that can create sicknesses and illnesses. So when you're eating that and you're in that lower vibe, you just kind of accept the role that's what it tastes like. When you awaken yourself to more feeling more, to understanding more, then the taste will end up becoming more bland, because it was always bland anyway, but you're aware of it now. And so you're then seeking real fruit, real food, real, like picked off the tree kind of stuff that we know is not tainted already, growing our own food and that sort of thing. I know, like, New Zealand was backwards kind of a country, so we grew our own fruit and vegetables for a while, and the taste of a tomato in New Zealand compared to the taste that I tasted in Australia when I moved here, totally different. It's so bland over here compared to that taste that I had in New Zealand. So I've even got that comparison of what real food tastes like compared to not, processed or over or GMO'd or whatever it is. And it becomes tasteless, because the body or the taste buds want to almost feel the essence of the information or the nutrients that is held within the cell of the fruit or vegetable. It kind of comes through your taste buds. It's really interesting. So yeah, anyway, before we begin in these communities, there is definite self-work that has to happen. We have to work fully, embracing ourselves and our new decisions, our new choices, and from a trust perspective, a place where we're trusting where we are going. And that is that proverbial fall, leaping off the cliff. When it comes to the logical mind, that's what it feels like. But you'll notice as you make you'll notice as you make more of these little changes in your life and decisions from the trust of yourself, that it actually will work. It's working. And they're bringing me to my own story of leaving the partner that I was with and going, oh my God, I'm a fish out of water. Through the last few years, the rent had just skyrocketed around here, and I didn't know how I was going to be able to support myself, through just Uber eating and stuff. And then they're like, just have faith. And as soon as I made a pure decision to leave, as soon as I did that, the light bulb goes on, house sitting. And so the house sitting jobs come up, and I'm like, is this actually going to work? There's anxiety there. I'm leaping off a proverbial cliff from my logical mind, just having anxiety attacks through doing this leap. But as I've progressed and gone along, I have always been caught. I've always ended up in a beautiful place. Beautiful. It's just, and if anything did go wrong, it was a lesson for me. It was a lesson for me. And I now see that now, and I quickly shift it because I see it as a lesson for me, not from what somebody else did to me, but from what I need to learn from that value of myself, why I ended up in their energy field to give me that lesson, and what I need to process within myself to shift so that I don't bring those people in again. So now we're not seeing it as, oh, woe is me, poor me, everybody outside is attacking me or hurting me or whatever. Now it's like, oh, you're giving me a lesson. Okay, what do I process so I can shift myself into a high vibration? And then I either see you for who you really are, or I just don't even have you in my reality anymore. Just those sort of people don't come into my reality anymore. There's always a lesson there, because everything is a reflection of yourself. So the people who are starting these new communities know this. They understand this value of themselves that they didn't see within themselves when they were always looking outside themselves for somebody to tell them what it is, who you are, the value of you. Oh, you didn't get A's in school. Oh, you're devalued. Oh, you haven't made a good job. Oh, you're devalued. You're not bringing in enough money. Oh, you're devalued. And when I look at myself now, I'm kind of half a step out of the matrix. I'm creating my own reality. I have my own hours. I do exactly what I want when I want. I go with my vibe. I always say what makes me happy. I don't have anyone else relying on me. I am creating a path that is purely for my own happiness now, and that makes totally a big difference. And until I feel either bored or unhappy with how things are working, I will keep doing this until then, and then ask to expand, and until I really sit in the position that I have in my imagination, which is building a community of like-minded souls that have done the work. And we are now working, we're taking responsibility for ourselves, 100% for ourselves. And whatever is reflected back, if something is going amiss, if there's an icky feeling about that in the community, then both need to go away and look at themselves. That sort of thing has not been done at the moment when I look into off-grid kind of community people. They're still, many of them are still scrambling to be the leader, or scrambling to be the right one, or who's got the better decisions and that. So it's not conducive for the whole. When we're really working for ourselves, we will always say, what I create is for the whole. What I create is to help the whole of my reality. And that could just be that community that you're in. It could go further than that, could go towards the whole of the world. But whatever you have decided, you're either living in the smallness of your community, and so it will be created for that community, or if you're living for the whole of the world, then you will probably take a higher position as a leader, a guide, or something. Well, I don't like saying the word leader. It's more of a guide of overseeing, because you found the value in yourself that is conducive to the wholeness of Earth, humanity. Expanding into a higher awareness for themselves. We want people to be more aware of themselves. We don't, like in the old times where I feel we've just come out of, it was, well, I have anyway. It's more to do with, who can I find that is devaluing themselves, that I can control them so that I feel good about myself. That's the old leadership over there. They weren't they didn't want you to expand into more wisdom and understanding of yourself and support yourself, because then that's harder to control somebody like, well, they can't control someone like that, because we're now taking responsibilities for all our decisions, our choices, the people that come into our life. We're making new pathways guided by our own authentic self, instead of feeling a victim and all that. And that's easy. Ah, cool, you're a victim. Come over here. I'll tell you what to do. Oh, yes, I'm a victim. Okay, I'll do what you want me to do. Because I don't trust in myself. That was the old humanity. But these new communities, before we begin them, we would have had to have done that work and really found that understanding within ourselves. So the people that you meet are going to be reflecting that. I'm certainly meeting other people now that are taking full responsibility for themselves. Yet we still talk about absolutely everything just like normal, but we're taking responsibility for who we are. And I'm always putting out for the whole of that small group of friends that I have at the moment. I want all my messages to help them and guide them and that sort of thing. Actually, I go further than that. This is why I do the YouTubes. I go out to the world. I want it to go out to the world. But, timing wise, okay, so there is a divine timingness in this. And I was definitely told this in a dream: do not cut the cake. It was a big sign and it was a massive cake. And it was like, do not cut the cake. They also showed me in this dream why I'm moving so much, because I cannot be caught, because my empathy goes into somebody else's house and I take on their vibration, and I also shift their vibration while I'm in that house. and then they come back to a feeling of a cleansingness of the location. And I always get that when I'm like, then I don't tell them about my spiritual side. I just do this on the low. But everything feels so clean and beautiful. And yeah, I do clean it a bit more, but it's not, even if the house is spotless, they always feel like that, and they always want me to come back. But they showed me in this dream the old matrix, and if I stayed in one place, then it would have been easier to have found me, because my light shines brighter. So it's like I'm moving all over the show. Plus I'm holding grid lines as well. So I've been taken around the world. This is why I went last year to New York. And everything was paid for. No, I didn't pay anything. I didn't even try to make this happen. This just all happened. And then the next one I'm doing is in Europe. So I'm going to Sweden. So I'm right in the center of all these countries, Poland and everything, because it's the lower part of Sweden. So there's something there that I'll be holding while I'm there. And I wouldn't be surprised, although I don't know about this at all, if I end up going to the east, to around China area or something like that in the end. So it'll be like, there's a reason why I've gone kind of around the whole world, or the understanding of the world that we process in our brains. And then, I come from Australia in the south, and New Zealand in the south. So there's a reason why that's happening. There's a grid line that's taking place here. I'm kind of diverting from the actual title, sorry. But anyway, that all happened. So they told me in the dream, and then they also showed me this huge cake that I'm going to it's already iced. It's ready to be, shared out to the world. There's something there. And they had a little sign, on it saying, do not slice it up yet. Do not cut this cake yet. And and I knew that I was going to make some more moves first. So then I asked a masculine person in my dream, a guy that I was with, do we have enough finances and the stability to be able to do this? And he's like, yeah, I've calculated all the calculations. That's me talking to my logical brain. Yes, we can. So I know that something big is coming. And it's definitely to do with divine timing, because I have this real fire in my belly at the moment to just start something new, start community, start getting this going. And they're like, just hold your horses. And yeah, and they showed me when I was traveling as well. So there could be for you a divine timing that's happening specifically for you because of a shift or a turnaround or something that's tweaking at the moment within humanity's consciousness. It is grasping. It's like they've been given new information. Say we call that the e-files and all that sort of stuff. And then the new information has to be processed for them to make new decisions coming in the next. And the mainstreamers that come across those so-called e-files, like I learned all about that many years ago. And I know from my own self, I had to process this, and I had to figure out how I would get through this. And we know it's not through fighting. We know it's not through wars. We know it's not through resistance. It's because that's just bringing us back to the same old program again. We resist something, then we're also repressing something that's hidden behind the resistance. So the fear is the point where it's kind of holding us away from more information as well, because everything at its core value is just source energy, which is love going on a journey, and anything else is a denial of that self. And so the denial then manifests in fears, wars, anger, guilt, all that sort of thing. That's how it manifests. That is the program. So yeah, there's a lot going on here, but before we begin, we need to be able to come back to self. We need to just hold, and also hold the reins steady. That's what they're showing me. Like, you feel a fire in yourself, just hold it steady for a while, because it's like a clarity, a fog being lifted, and this new everything, or the truth coming out, it's oozing out, that's not very nice, will end up, it's like it's going to shift a shadow that was held humanity's head under the sand. And to hold your head under the sand, you don't know what's coming, and everyone has control over you. You don't know what's going on. So this is lifting the ostrich's head, or the humanity's head, out of the sand, the nastiness that's happening over there. And then with that nastiness, it's sort of it's asking us, well, do we want to keep on doing the same story as what we were, and fighting that, because it's just dragging us back into that. See, the ones in charge, they don't care if you hate them. They don't care if the story is ugly. They don't give a toot. And it will be uglier and uglier stories until they get your attention, because they just want your attention. They want your focus. They have your focus. Then they have the story written out for you. And then you're the one that starts to they dictate the story through the fear program, and you start following it. It's got nothing to do with that. This is to do with a totally inside job that you are now a sovereign being creating a new path. And that path does not have them in it. They do not exist in your reality in the future. Like, it's almost like for my whole life, I've never known, thank God, I've never been in a low enough vibe to know of or be present in a mass murder or something like that, something horrible, some horrible story. I've always been on the outskirts of it, just touching little bits, but nothing, or it's on TV or whatever. It'll be like me saying, yes, I want that reality. Like, there's no way I would choose that reality. And especially now. So the more lighter you become, the more clearer you are, then of course you're not going to choose that reality. So how do you not choose a reality that you know about? You focus, you learn to be able to control your mind, to focus your attention on what you want to imagine and bring in. And then they have no energy. Then their story becomes null and void, because there's less and less people that they can control. And the less people that they can control means that their story just gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, because the people are waking up from being a victim in their life. And so they will choose to focus on creating a beautiful, loving story, which is a totally different vibration. And then they literally can't see you, feel you, whatever. It's like you just know the path to take automatically. Like, my path has been taking me from one place to another. I didn't logically think that. I just trusted the process. and I already had in myself, I will be safe, I am protected, everything is going to be fine, and I am where I need to be in this moment in time, to be able to help in the future. It's interesting. Maybe this is why everything stayed small for me in my social media and stuff, because if I became too fast too quick while everything was happening, I would miss an opportunity. I would miss big opportunities. And they showed me that when I was driving my car, I was in the right lane, and then my logical brain went, we're coming up to a traffic light, and I knew that the lanes merged past the traffic light, but my logical brain's like, you better move now because you won't have enough time. And so I moved into this other lane, which slowed me down, which also I ended up missing the traffic lights. I ended up having to stop at the traffic lights. And then on the other side of the traffic lights, all the traffic was merging in, so I had to wait even longer. So if I make a move now, logically, like my logical brain is getting a little bit antsy with all this fire energy, then I will miss a whole heap of other opportunities. I won't be at that guiding point. I won't be the light leader. And the reason why I'm telling you my stories is because I feel it's relevant to your stories and anyone that comes across this video. So I'm a reflection of you, remember. Whatever comes out of my mouth is something that's, there could be a message in it for yourself. So just take that on board, maybe for the future, maybe for now. So just take it on board as we go along. Okay, I will read this too as well. Hey, Jenny, good to see you. And Kathy as well. And Anne, good to see you. Okay, so I wrote this down. Returning back to the innocence, the purity of an infinite soul living within the confinements of a physical world. And they brought me back to being a child again, that childlike innocence, but now realizing we have the maturity of how to work through the physical world as well. So we're not looking at other people to teach us how to do this anymore. We're already mature, but we're to bring back that innocence with no obligations other than you exploring what it's like to be human, which automatically drops all judgments because you know freedom to express oneself from a point of loving. That expression is enough to allow all to be as they are. So the people that start this new community are going to understand that. We're coming back to a purity of oneself, an acknowledgement of all that was hidden, an acknowledgement of dormant DNA, an acknowledgement of things that are held within our imagination that are not going to be seen as stupid, silly, whimsical, whatever those words were that repressed us. They're going to be seen as, that's interesting. Let's see if we can ground that, because that would be a really cool reality to ground. They're showing me like-minded people coming together, like I know in my reality it is, and then there'll be like those people will ignite. It's kind of like they call it a hub. They're calling it like a hub of energy that the imagination comes together as one essence, or it's like a flower opening, or energy coming out of a flower, literally opening into these new communities that are going to magnetize more people that are affiliated with the same resonance of imagination. Meaning it's kind of like, for instance, myself and my journey, where I've come from Pleiades, and then I was hiding in a higher vibration on Earth, which I still had access to Pleiades at that time. When I awakened to that information, the potential of humanity, and my mind is completely clear, then those that have been either in the Lemuria, Mu, that sort of age where the feminine power was powerful, can now be reactivated. And so the times of Lemuria and how they actually lived will also be reactivated in the community that is formed. And also, for me, it would also be the understanding of how they worked in the Pleiadian. Now, we're going to have others as well have Arcturian friends and that absolutely love the vibration of those vibrations or love those communities, and it made them feel really good about themselves, so they come on board too. We have these different scenarios that come along. Then you've got others that are imagining other things, imagining into reality. And they're saying to me, each community or pod that is going to be created is already, it's activating in the right timing for that to be established. So some might seem to be further ahead than others. But the reason why is because they needed that slow progression, so they seem ahead. But all of a sudden, another community will be formed very quickly, where they might be a slower. Yeah, it's fairly interesting what they're bringing up. But before coming back to the title, before we begin, all you need to know now is, are you doing the work of looking at yourself? Are you using your imagination? Like, go big with this. Things that you hid or repressed from yourself, start writing them out in a diary or draw pictures or whatever of information that could be held in the community through the showing me organic material. That was literally done in the Egyptian times as well, where they held wisdom. They wrote a lot of it down in organic material because it infused it into the consciousness of Earth herself, helping understand where humanity in that moment of time wanted to escape to or go to. So if they were in tune with Orion and those planets, then they wrote it in hieroglyphic messages and stuff like that. And it was like a communicational form that, because they weren't as telepathic, it was slowly dispersed, it was slowly going away. So writing was the only method, and telepathicness, the communication that we had with Earth, they thought if they wrote it down and it was infused in the stones or the Earth itself, then it would still gain access to them being able to, or a probability of them being able to have these open portals to these other planets, because they were the access to the planets that their soul had a very strong lineage with. So that's another channel message that's coming through now. They're bringing me through to sapphires and gems in different colors that is held within the crystalline structure of Earth herself. There's going to be even more colors coming, of vibrations being found. They're showing me, I don't know where we're going here, but we'll go with it. Etheric, just almost like see-through colors. New vibration of those colors solidifying in a material form that they find on Earth. They're going to find these new elements, so to speak, where the grid that they've already created of the elements that were only half there when I was a child in the 70s, and now in as you know, they've filled a lot of it with the minerals and stuff. There's going to be even access to more. They're showing me another layer, like a chessboard that's gone up another layer, and they're like, oh my God, there's a whole other layer here. And this is because we're activating this light within ourselves, and the dormant DNA that's activated will actually show up what's going on in other planets, Venus and that sort of thing, where we see others that are living in the higher vibrations and always did exist there, but we never noticed them before because we were only in the seven octaves, A, B, C, D, E, F, G octave on a piano. There's something to do with more information, another level of frequencies that are going to be activated when you open up. It's going to be a real unknown quantity. This is why we need in these new communities, it not just being in a physical sense. It needs to be also opportunities for people to be able to access higher frequencies of wisdom. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot more peace. Everyone there will have more peace of mind, and so with that peace of mind becomes a lot more creativity, a lot more imagination, a lot more communication with the animals, plants, Mother Earth herself, what she has to offer, what we can gain from her. All of this needs to be told to you before you begin these new communities, that this information is needed to be activated within you, an understanding of why it's so important to live in access of the imagination, which holds codes to past lives and previous dimensional spaces that your soul has resided in. And some of those spaces were only grounded when you came into this world in that life as a beetle or an animal or a whatever. But then in the higher realms, you were this whole other being. It's really interesting what's coming through. See, accessing the imagination and all the wisdom that it holds. Literally, they're telling me the channeling that is poured through me is already held within me. This is why I have a little bit of trouble of, am I accessing my higher self, or am I accessing the Pleiadians, or am I accessing the Cyanians? And sometimes I just go, it's everything, because it is kind of like a unification of my light body and their light body, or themselves, their soul self, going on parallel lives. And so we have the same information that we are accessing. All of this needs to be understood when we go into these new communities. Even those that are very logically based needs to have at least who are grounders, who are building the buildings and all that. They need to have an understanding of why the shapes are conducive to the area that they are building. They need to have a kind of an understanding of the somatic patterns that is held within the consciousness of humanity, now being grounded in the spaces that we create, in the buildings that we create. And it's going to shift. It's not going to be exactly like Lemuria in those times where we had the circle of the earth, and then we had the water. And this is just some of the communities built back then: circle water, because they accessed the water as the vibration held, because you can put information in water, and you can gain access to that water by drinking it as well. So this even could change things. It can be the same, but it doesn't have to be the same. Let yourself be free enough to explore something new. That's where the non-judgment message came. Be that innocence, that purity of the innocence, and exploring like you were when you were a child, and feeling into what you could actually bring here on earth. And there's going to be those that, like me, that understand this from a higher perspective and have this communication already in place. And then there's going to be those that are more grounded and more sensible when it comes to the plants and how to plant the plants and that sort of thing. There's so much more coolness that's going to come, and we're going to be full of abundance. There's so much more abundance coming our way because we have accessed already things like TVs, things like computers and all of that outside of us by our logical mind. Our logical mind now knows that this can be in existence, but we're now going to be accessing it from a light body. So that means we literally materialize the TV within our own minds, where we can connect. Let's all tune in together. And then when we tune in together, it's a shared story, and it literally feels like you're there. So now you're in this 3D other expanded world, but you also know that your body is still on the plane of existence in the physical world. So it's so cool what can come through this. We can access so much more in these new communities. And I really feel it's exciting. I feel like there's a turning point that's happening in the moment for those that are going to really be the kind of guiding lights of this new era in humanity's consciousness. It's a turning point. And that's why a lot of this information is coming through me at the moment. I'm starting to understand my place. And when I start to understand my place in all of this, the ego needs to be put aside. And that's the ego that is telling me that, you're no better than anybody else. Well, no, everybody at the core essence is love going on a journey. Absolutely. We are all the same frequency, but we've all had different journeys. So the soul in its wisdom, the source energy in its wisdom, created trillions of different souls. And those trillions of different souls is a source of energy or alignment with that's only been through certain things, where I haven't had a life here over and over and over again and been persecuted. That was held by the beautiful souls of the witches and the native people that understood the grounded level of Earth herself. Where my soul came straight from Pleiades, I was hidden in a belt, in a frequency belt that's why I was taken to in this dream where I had a house on a high in the mountains where nobody could access that frequency. In that space, I created my own reality, and it was. I know that there wasn't a lot of others there, but now this is where I'm here to take you guys to these other spaces. But be in a more grounded place. We don't have to be high on a mountain and hiding anymore, in a physical way. It's really grounding it in a community way, and the rest of it that's been programmed in humanity is just awakening them. So let that purging of the yuckiness that's happening, let it happen over there. Don't be part of that. Just go, okay, I know about that. That's enough for me. Because I'm here to hold a higher vibration, so that when they're ready and they've decided they're going to start to do the inner work and they've decided to use their imagination, we've already opened the door for them to come in. But that's why they're showing me shop fronts and stuff, that we start to create shop fronts in these communities of, we're selling them coffee or tea or whatever it is that they're into, not what we're into, remember, because we want to bring them in, and then we throw a little sprinkle of fairy dust or whatever over it, so it kind of awakens them when they eat it, and then or drink what they're drinking, and then they're like, oh my God, I really love that place, it's such a good vibe, and they kind of want to return. And then that in itself is going to end up shattering the illusion of their small-minded, victimization, guilt, and all that sort of stuff, or that their logical brain had taken over, and shatter that illusion of that being in charge. When they go back home, and they'll be confronted with quite a bit of shadow work, but then they'll go, oh, I want to go back to that place, and it will keep on exchanging like this. So we become the light bearers that are holding these communities in place. This is what's happening. It's absolutely happening. But there is they said everything will feel right when you flow, and it is going to happen before the end of this year, where these communities are going to be starting to be set up. If you're in a higher vibe, you'll start to see them start to be set up before the end of the year. Yeah, and they keep showing me 3/4 of the year, around August time, and that sort of thing. We've reached a whole new level. Literally cannot be touched by those that are trying to pull you under anymore. Literally cannot be touched by that anymore. That's how much of a shift it's going to happen. Holy crap. Yeah, so that's all cool. If you do have to speak to somebody about the awful things that are coming up with the ones that were in charge that have been playing the consumer game, call it the consumer game, do it with a lightheartedness and try not to stay in that energy for too long. Okay, so this is the channeling for today, right? I love this channeling. I knew I would. I'm like, it's all going to just come out fine. Yeah, so that's the channeling for today. And I'm going to more focus my attention in my channel on, the truth needs to also be there, but I'm going to focus it more on creating the new, the vibrations, how it feels, where we're going, what kind of magic we can bring in, how we can do this practically, in a practical kind of a solution as well. What we can access, what we come in front of us is what comes in front of us. Okay, that's interesting. So there could be somebody out there that walks a path where they will find something, and they're like, this is part of the new community. I know it is. It was placed by me in another soul's body, another body, as my soul, back in Lemuria age, and I hid it there for a specific purpose, for me to go find it in this moment, for me to dig it up so that this energy is purer for the communities that have been built. So much more going to happen. So cool. Yeah, great transmission today, Jeannie. I know. Isn't it exciting? It is getting exciting. I can feel it. My friends, my girlfriends and that can feel it. The awakening of the masculine is helping this so much. Like they're going through a lot of shadow work and awakening themselves to more than just the logical mind. They're awakening that feminine essence within themselves. And that's grounding it, because when they awaken it, they're already grounded. So they then be asking themselves, how do I ground this? And that is needed. We needed in these communities to be literal, like power couples. Everything is going to be talked through. You know, imagination's coming through. Throw it on the table, guys. Let's see where this can go. Let's see where all these imaginative stories can flow. Okay, that one there would be really good for this time. Maybe that one there would be good for in the future. Maybe we'll change it up by then. You know, we're not poo-pooing these stories anymore. We're not making light of them, and we're not belittling them anymore. We're allowing that feminine essence to express itself. And then we choose wisely by the moment in this moment what's going to be conducive for the community now. Oh my God, you know, we do need to get buildings and structures created that are more conducive and don't harbor, you know, 90-degree angles or something like that, or, you know, this building, that building, and that building's place a specific purpose, because the energy alignment is now giving us a portal through Earth to another world, another dimension. God, you just don't know where this is all going to go, but it's getting really exciting. There is another thing quickly before I leave that they're bringing up. They're bringing up a little bit of craziness that's going to happen within people's realities, time shifts, glitches, so-called, in the matrix, because the matrix was held by the logical mind, which has now been blown apart, literally. And so that expansion will then, the story gets little distortednesses coming into it, and it awakens your logical mind to going, nothing is real. They're bringing me to when I was in Uluru and I was taken into the mountain with another guy, and we literally slipped into this mountain, and I had my hands on Uluru and this pulse coming through me. And when I looked at the other guy, he's got his hand through, like going through the gap in the mountain. But he's going, none of it's real, none of it's real. Like he's literally saying none of. So it's blowing his mind as a logical masculine man. None of it is real. I already know that this is light manifested into physical reality held by the logical programming. I already know that, but a man who is that is their full reason and source for being here, is in grounding everything. They're accessing the part that is starting to realize none of it's real. So then if none of it's real, it really does come from within you and how you are imagining this life into being. So choose those people that have got a great imagination, right? Because they are the ones that's going to be the new finance, the new money, the new abundance, because they're the ones that can express or bring through all these awesome imaginings. Not all of them need to be grounded, but we at least have access to them. Okay. I think I will leave it there, guys. That was fun. That was so much fun. Okay, I will be, because I couldn't do this yesterday, I will be live. I suppose I'll be live tomorrow or on Friday. I'll feel into that again, and I will bring in the tarot for fun, like I always do, and give you guys some free chat bar readings too. And we'll see what topic comes up with that one. And yeah, look how, I know it's going to be a little while before I actually get this true history down. I really feel this is the right time now to do it, because they are giving me more information. Because when I was connected with the, for a couple of years or a year or so with the Anunnaki, they took me into their ship and gave me even more information. But I had it in behind a fear program. You know, it's kind of like repressed. For all of a sudden, this is starting to unravel. All of these pieces are starting to unravel, and it's like this big, huge pitch in my channeling with this this story, as well as all the other beings, because I had 4 beings giving me their lowdown on what humanity's true history was. And each one has a different perspective. So, yeah, it's like knitting together 4 different levels or 4 different layers, and then you can see it where it overlaps with each one of them. And that's where the overlapping is like that connectiveness, like the vector that joins another vector. So you know that that's the truth because there's overlappingness. Anyways, look out for that one. I'll probably keep on advertising that one because I want that one to get out there. Okay, guys, from the bottom of my heart to you all, have an absolutely fabulous day, week, whatever. Until next time. Bye.